Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch Podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap, here with the Trashman, back in our home studios, back from the NFL Draft in Kansas City. Trashman, I'll tell you one thing, that the barbecue in Kansas City is absolute trash compared to the barbecue in Central Texas. Would you ever believe it?
I mean, I've been to Kansas City before. I mean, I don't really like the barbecue anywhere else. Honestly, I'm just kind of sick of the barbecue here too.
Hey, come away, trash man! What are you talking about? How can you be sick of Central Texas brisket?
Because I have it all the time. I mean, I feel like,
boy, why do you have it all the time? It's so delicious.
Tex-Mex and barbecue. I'm just like, I can take a break for a minute.
Now you say you don't like Tex-Mex anymore?
I like it. I just don't seek it out.
Move to Canada, trash man. we don't need you anymore around here. No, I think if I wasn't so used to like Central Texas barbecue, I would have thought it was fine. I hate to say it was trash.
Well, what's your favorite barbecue here?
Oh, well, brisket. Just anything that's kind of the Franklin line.
No, like where? From where?
These days, probably Interstellar.
I don't even know that place.
Oh, dude, it just got number 2 in the Texas Monthly barbecue rankings.
There's a place called J&L over here at the Quickie Picky on the east side. To me, it rivals Franklin. It's incredible.
I'll have to check it out when I get over to the east side. All right.
Yeah, I might be waiting a while. Might have
actually. Yeah. All right. Let's get into it.
By then.
We're gonna do the fantasy fallout from the NFL draft for a few episodes here. We're going to do 2 divisions per episode just so we can go through and hit on everything. Today, we're going to talk about the AFC South and the AFC East. But before we get started, just a quick reminder, we do have the Dynasty Rookie cheat sheets up at RosterWatch.com. Those went up on Sunday for traditional 1 quarterback leagues and also for 2 quarterbacks, super flex, and tight end premium leagues. So there's 2 different products up as far as the Dynasty Rookie cheat sheets. I'm proud of how those turned out. I'm already using them in a couple of my rookie drafts. They're going well. I also updated the best ball cheat sheets yesterday, and a added feature of the best ball cheat sheets now is you can download the CSV. So if you want to go into Underdog and upload our cheat sheet into the Underdog rankings to where it's like it'll pop up the next player who's on the cheat sheet, you can do that now. You can download that from right in the post on the site. I would recommend though using the cheat sheet while you're doing it, because the cheat sheet often will give you like a choice of like 3 or 4 players, and just because one player's 3 players ahead on the tier, there could be a player that you'd rather take that's on the same line or on a closer line. And also we know with the best ball cheat sheet, you could deviate a little bit just to, like, as Trashman knows, get those stacks, get those correlations, get those kinds of plays, especially in these big tournaments. The Best Ball Mania 4 tournament looks like it's going to be an absolute monster this year.
It's all about the stacks.
$3 million up top for that, and you're probably not gonna get it without having some sort of correlation and stacking going on. So it's okay to deviate from that. Unlike the redraft cheat sheet, which will be out likely a little bit later this month or at the beginning of June, where if you follow the 3 simple rules, we will ask you not to break them and not to bastardize our beautiful sheet of paper. So with that being said, Trashman, I feel like on the best ball cheat sheet, there's still some stuff that I'm struggling with, and a lot of it has to do with some of the things here. So maybe we can sort of talk through it. Let's start out with let's just start with the
AFC South. Yes, exactly. Yeah. This is who I wanted to start out with, mainly because there's one guy on that rookie cheat sheet who I think is way too low.
Tank Dell.
I think Tank Dell, he could end up being the number 1 receiver on that offense.
What?
Yes.
Over John Mechie?
Yes.
Dude,
he's going to become. I remember how good Mechie was, but Tank Dell is good too. I know Tank Dell got tanked by his 40 time. But if you watch Tank Dell's tape, and he played well at the Senior Bowl, enough to where he didn't have to play the rest of the.
We had to grudgingly put him on the All Senior Bowl team.
I think that Tank Dell could work his way to the number 1 spot on that offense. I think there's a clear path to it.
They're not married to playing him in the slot either.
No, I think of a lot of those rookie wide receivers. I think Tank Dell has the clearest path to fantasy, one of the clearest paths to fantasy relevance.
Because do you remember DP Sidhu from who did the pod last year, Deep Slant on Twitter, who works for the Texans, like on Texans TV and stuff like that? They like Mechie in the slot.
Yeah.
So could be where does Woods fit in? I don't know. That'll be like who cares, really?
He doesn't need to fit in anywhere.
New quarterback. I mean, these new quarterbacks, oftentimes they come in with these new players who are the rookies along with them that are kind of their teammates. They, that's something that, certainly something to keep an eye on with Tank Dell. They also brought in Xavier Hutchinson, who I technically had ranked higher than Tank Dell. Just with Tank Dell, Tank Dell is so puny. He's 165 pounds, but I get it. I get it. If they really do think that he's one of these guys who can be like a Marquise Brown or something like that, he's not as fast.
But he plays fast. He plays fast.
Right. Well, that's your biggest takeaway from the whole Houston thing.
I mean that's not my big. That's just what I remember looking at the rookie cheat sheet. That was like the one glaring thing to me. It was like, okay, I feel like that needs to be altered.
You're right. He should be moved up. I mean, he doesn't belong. Yeah, he's too low. He should be ahead of Hutchinson. He should be ahead of Kayshon Boutte. He needs to be. You're right. Tank Dell needs to be moved up a good bit because we're looking. And I'll actually change that here after the. I'll change that here after the pod because early third round is good draft capital. I mean, the third round is where wide receivers have gone to die recently, right?
Yeah.
What's the only good one? Terry McLaurin recently, but. I don't think that means much. I kind of think that's just sort of, it's kind of silly, kind of a silly stat that people pull out. My biggest takeaway is really, everything that was done to address the running back situation in Houston was done via free agency, right? There wasn't anything done in the draft that really makes you any more worried about Dameon Pierce. And that was a real consideration whenever you consider that Dameon Pierce was a 4th-round pick last year. Behind him, all they have is Devin Singletary. Other than that, they have real scrub bodies like Mike Boone, Dare Ogunbowale, Jared Dokes, and they did bring on Xavier Valade, who Byron really liked from the Shrine game, the player out of Arizona State. I'm not sure if Valade was even at the combine. But if you watch his tape, he does remind you a lot of a TJ Yeldon type. I think that Dameon Pierce is pretty safe here. And I feel like on the best ball cheat sheet, I might still have some lingering bias on that sheet from the old update where I was just sort of banking on something happening in the draft to swindle Dameon Pierce. So that's another thing with the Texans I'm going to need to do. I'm going to get Pierce up on that sheet, and I'm going to make a note here to get Dell up on the rookie cheat sheet. Okay. And then of course just CJ Stroud, They got a quarterback. Everybody's already talked about that like crazy, but of course, I mean, he should make the whole offense, I guess they hope. Yeah. I guess they kind of hope that he'll make the offense better.
I feel much better about dropping Davis Mills in that serious league now.
Yep. Okay. The Indianapolis Colts. So they obviously go with Anthony Richardson with the first overall pick, or with their first overall pick at the 104, making him the number 1 quarterback, I think, in dynasty rookie drafts, both Superflex and in traditional one quarterback. I just took him in one of my competitive dynasty Superflex tight end premium leagues at the 1.02 right after Bijan. I just think that the upside there with him is just too absolutely legendary. And I just think just from a pure football standpoint, what the Colts did with drafting guys with traits, Julius Brents from the Senior Bowl with those long arms at the cornerback, right? Josh Downs with if nothing else, the total downfield speed, that sort of Tyler Lockett meets T.Y. Hilton sort of player. Blake Freeland, the offensive tackle from BYU, one of the most athletic offensive linemen in the whole draft. They also got Adebaware from Northwestern, the defensive tackle, defensive end, who tested better than basically anybody else at the combine from a a size adjusted standpoint. They also got Will Mallory, the tight end from Miami, who's just one of the most athletic tight ends. Evan Hull from Northwestern, who we saw as one of the sort of second tier. If you're going to be going down a little bit and taking these guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, Evan Hull is a pass receiving kind of Nyheim Hines replacement there to complement Jonathan Taylor. Makes a lot of sense to me. He ran the 4.47, so he's got the requisite size. He was better at the Senior Bowl than a guy like Chase Brown, who went higher than he did. I think my big takeaway from this is that Anthony Richardson's probably going to start sooner than we originally thought going to this landing spot. Getting to work with the coach who was able to mold Jalen Hurts in all the ways that we like. Do you think Gardner Minshew is going to start for the first 4 or 5 games of the season? Do you think Anthony Richardson comes right in and starts? How do you think that's going to work?
I mean, we'll have to see what they do in camp. If Richardson has some semblance of being ready for the start of the season, I think they'll start him.
Do you like Josh Downs better in dynasty rookie drafts than Jonathan Mingo or Marvin Mims? Mingo went to Carolina.
Maybe more than Mims, not more than Mingo. I think Mingo has a clear path to fantasy relevance in Carolina.
We'll talk about Jonathan Mingo when we get to the Carolina stuff. I'm just asking you for the sake of the sheet. You're right that Tank Dell is too low on here, man. I'm embarrassed now just looking at it. I'm going to get these updates up in my kid's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class whenever I'm sitting there for the next 2 hours after this podcast. That'll be the first thing that I do.
Downs. Well, I guess the question is, where is Downs going to play? Does Pierce go to the slot now? Where is Downs going to play out of?
Well, I mean, I think he probably plays out. I think he plays.
You think he's the slot?
Yeah. I mean, Paris Campbell's gone to the New York Giants.
Right.
So what is it? They brought in Isaiah McKenzie. He's going to beat out Isaiah McKenzie. Ashton Doolin played a lot out of the slot. That guy's going to be dust. I think that Josh Downs takes over a start. He's like Josh Downs is a good football player, man. He's puny. He's really shrimpy and tiny.
Yeah.
But I think he's a guy you're gonna be interested in probably at the 2-3 turn of your dynasty rookie drafts. And just Anthony Richardson for Jonathan Taylor. Both those guys on the field at the same time. That's exciting to think about, man. Defenses having to prepare for both of those guys as runners. They're going to put some dudes on. They're going to put some dudes on skates, man. All right, Jacksonville Jaguars. So they really didn't do that much fantasy-wise for us, except draft Tank Bigsby, your boy, in the 3rd round. Not the most earth-shattering pick, I don't think. I feel like I would have really loved to see Tank Bigsby go to a little bit better of a landing spot. But besides kind of behind Travis Etienne, how do you feel like this affects him? Does it bother you at all about Bigsby that he's going to be working at the very best? Are you considering this to be like a 70-30 type committee, the kind of stuff that we've seen maybe with Etienne and these other guys before?
I mean, I see him like as a kind of a James Robinson kind of replacement. I mean, I feel like they're similar kind of back. I feel like
Tank's not as big as James Robinson.
He's not as big, but he's more of an in between the tackle runner. I think Etienne's more of a guy who kind of gets to the outside. Is an option in the pass catching game. I think maybe if anything, Tank Bigsby might vulture some of those goal line touches. I don't really like that move for either player.
I don't either. I think I didn't like it for either of them. It wasn't quite like Charbonnet and Ken Walker. Like, whoa, geez, we'll talk about that soon. But yeah, I mean, I think that's basically it. I think we just kind of hit it there. So they didn't really have many.
Yeah, they didn't do much in the
draft. Players. I think they drafted a tight end. Yeah, they did. They drafted Josh Weil from Cincinnati, but fifth round tight end. We'll see what happens. No, wait. I'm sorry. I've already gone on to the Tennessee. Hold on, but let me just check though. Didn't Jacksonville draft a tight end? Yeah, Brenton Strange from Penn State. A little
Oh.
bit more of a blocker, but I was there at the draft with Anand Nanduri, and he said that Brenton Strange, when he's noticed him and he's watched them as a big Ohio State fan, he said Strange is a problem. So just something to keep in mind there. We know that they have Evan Ingram on the franchise tag for one more year, but that could be something for the future. Okay, now I went ahead to Tennessee, and that was when I said Josh Weil from Cincinnati. Of course, the fantasy relevant stuff that they did was they traded up. They tried to trade up for Will Levis apparently a few times in the first round. They ended up getting it done with the Cardinals with the second pick in the second round. So they go up and get him, quarterback of the future. I'm not sure if he's going to play this year. The big deal was Tyjae Spears, the running back out of Tulane, who they took in the third round. So on one side of the coin with Tyjae Spears, you have a guy who we really liked at the Senior Bowl, a guy who we really liked his prospect profile, and he's going to a spot in Tennessee where you basically have that Dontrell Hilliard role completely open to you. And they're gonna use somebody besides Derrick Henry as like this pass catching back, somebody who can do some things to complement Henry. And we've seen that role be one that in the past has been one that we can kind of depend on in a bye week PPR kind of deal. But it also comes with the added benefit of, Tyjae Spears has the requisite size to be a true almost handcuff type player to Henry, not a high efficiency yield handcuff, but a handcuff-ish player who, we're not going to get to that 80% of Derrick Henry with Tyjae Spears, by no means. But it's a pretty valuable spot that he's going to. They don't really have that many playmakers on offense. They didn't draft anybody to be a playmaker outside of the kid Colton Dowell, who they took in the 7th round from Tennessee Martin. It's still the same cast of characters, and it's another really good pass catching weapon on offense. That's the good side of the coin. The bad side of the coin, Trashman, and I need to know how much of it. Have you heard anything about what Dr. Chow has come out and said about the Tyjae Spears injury?
No.
So he's saying that, so basically based on Ian Rappaport's reporting, Spears suffered 2 torn ACLs in his past 2015 and 2020. We certainly noticed that big scar he had, I believe, down his left knee, the side of his left knee. Interviewing him at the Senior Bowl, Cody even asked him if the knee's okay. He said the knee's beautiful. All the rest of it, he says that while Spears was evaluated at the NFL Combine, a test revealed a full thickness cartilage loss and no ACL in his knee. Furthermore, Spears has arthritis in his knee from his 2 ACL surgeries. So what Dr. Chow says on sports injury on 6score.com, arthritic knees with bone spurs are relatively unstable, according to the Pro Football Docs. He will be able to play in the NFL, but will have a very short career. Even with 2 torn ACLs, the Tennessee Titans took a risk by drafting Spears with the 81st pick in the NFL draft. So he thinks he's going to have a very short career. He says that full cartilage loss and no ACL in his knee. I'm not sure I'm worried for redraft this year, but do we need to move him down in Dynasty?
Well, he's not particularly high in Dynasty.
Well, he's I need to move him down, though. I need to move him down.
You said these injuries happened, 2015 and 2017 or 2016?
2015 and 2020.
2020. Well, he had his best. He took over the backfield as a senior.
He said he's
1,600
Pro
yards.
Football Dog says that Tyjae Spears
touchdowns.
is going to be a Jay Ajayi.
Well, that's good company to be in.
No, it's not.
In some ways,
45 games in his NFL career.
In some way, well, I'm talking about his upside.
Jay Ajayi.
They mean his injury.
Well, yeah.
Status. They're not talking about his.
Look, man, it's definitely a cool glass of water down the old sweatpants.
If he hadn't run for almost 1,600 yards and 20 touchdowns on almost 230 attempts, In college, I maybe would be a little bit more wary, but he hasn't shown to be any worse for the wear after that last ACL surgery.
Let's move to the AFC East, and let's start with the Buffalo Bills. Of course, they take Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Utah, with their first selection. Other than that, the only really fantasy relevant thing that they did was they took Justin Short, or Mr. Stiffness himself, out of Florida. Just a rocked up DK Metcalf looking dude, but one of the more stiff looking players at the whole NFL combine. I think the Dalton Kincaid thing's interesting. I was noticing doing underdog testing yesterday, cheat sheet, just running instant drafts where I was just, changing the cheat sheet, uploading the new CSV, just running these instant drafts, all that. I would go back and analyze them, and I did like 20 of them. And Dalton Kincaid is starting to go before Dawson Knox, which I find kind of interesting. People are just super, super into him. I mean, they did use first-round capital on him. A lot of people had him as the number one tight end in the draft. I think people are starting to think that Gabe Davis sort of sucks. It's kind of like Kincaid is a little bit of the new star there. And you can maybe see him developing a connection with Josh Allen as somebody who they do need another like elite pass receiving weapon. Kincaid has been cleared of all his back stuff. He should be good to go. But he's not exactly going to be cheap in these drafts. I've seen him go eighth, ninth round. Before you start getting to guys like, do you know what else we didn't talk about with the AFC South? I'm sorry, but Okonkwo. They didn't. Okay. I mean, he's about to feast. I mean, Davenport told us, Teron Davenport told us at the combine that he's in for a big season. Like, they just don't have enough weapons. Like, they're going to pepper Chig, but Kincaid's starting to go around the same time as the Okonkwo's, with Dalton Schultz's, like some of these other players who, not really Freiermuth, but some of those guys that come in that wave sort of after Pat Freiermuth goes off the board. Like, you're starting to see Kincaid pop into that, which to me is somewhat interesting.
That seems early to me. I mean, Dawson Knox, but he's 27.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe it's, they're looking towards a future, and like, maybe, I don't know what Dawson Knox's contract is right now, but I feel like maybe they're, plan on letting him go, in the somewhat distant future. But I feel like, are we getting ahead of ourselves with these tight ends? We usually, it's usually 3 years on these tight ends before they really come into play, but it's just like,
I mean, I'm not getting ahead of anything. The only place I have these guys pumped up, Kincaid and Michael Mayer, is in tight end Superflex tight end premium. And even then, we're just talking about the 1-2 turn, and that's where stud tight ends go, man. It's just it's where they go when you get 1.5 PPR points for every catch that they make.
Yeah,
it's just where you need to put them. That's what the math says. Okay, let's go to the Miami Dolphins. I just think the biggest thing here, one of the awesomest landing spots of all, is Devon Achane from Texas A&M going to Miami for just the speed to the Mike McDaniel offense. We've seen that running game, you can be one of these tiny slashers like a Raheem Mostert and really make the most of it, right? And he's better at this point in his career than a Raheem Mostert. He's better than Jeff. I mean, we need to be taking A-Chain before either of those guys, right? I mean, this is an exciting landing spot, and he should probably be, as far as, I mean, I know as far as dynasty rookie drafts, he's definitely a top 4 to 5-ish running back that should be going off the board. Simply because it's, you could just see this going perfectly. And Trashman, whenever you watched him, you were the first to say it's like he's not bad on contact. He's not bad between the tackles. There's a lot of kind of Mostert stuff about him, but he's a younger super juice version of that.
How much smaller is he than Mostert?
Well, Achane was 188, right?
Yeah, which Mostert maybe 2.
Raheem Mostert. Oh no.
2.
Let me see. Raheem Mostert, I believe he's, let's see. He's 31. All right, so I've seen him listed anywhere from 199 to 205, depending on when in his career the people are talking about him.
Okay.
So
yeah, it's what he's listed at 205 right now.
I don't know.
I mean,
I can't pull up his player page for the.
I like it says 205, but like I feel like I like A-Chain. I like what he can do. I like the opportunity that's there. I just don't know how consistent. If he's going to get consistent opportunities,
he's going to get consistently sick, dude. They're going to clear things out in the middle of the field for some of those wheel routes and those Texas routes and stuff like that he's so good at Texas A&M. He's going to get the ball and he's going to run, dog. Like, this is good for A-Chain. This is one of the best possible landing spots for him.
I mean, I could see it. It's hard for me to think. It's hard for me to think that Mostert and Wilson are just going to go away.
Who's gonna? Of course they're gonna go away, dude. Those are the kind of guys that just go just go away. They do. They just go away. That's what happens.
I feel like McDaniels has
Jonathan Taylor doesn't just go away.
Loyalty to those players. Both of those players from San Francisco,
dude. Yeah, they're both back on small deals. Like, he gave up that 5th round pick for one more year of Jeff Wilson. It's like, come on.
I like A-Chain's upside. I just don't know that he's going to be the goal line guy. I don't know that. It's hard for me to think that he's going to be the 3 down back there in Miami.
New England Patriots. Let's see here. So what did they didn't do? God damn, they had a lot of picks. The only really fantasy relevant stuff that they did here was they drafted Kayshon Boutte from LSU in the 6th round. They also drafted Demario Douglas from Liberty in the 6th round. Boutte, of course, a player that sort of on that Justin Ross trajectory. Remember Justin Ross from Clemson? Except, Ross hurt his neck, and that's sort of why he had the major downfall from, the heights of glory that he saw as a true freshman, right? With Boutte, it's just the offense began to stink. He got a little bit ornery. He had some off-field issues. He just, the volume didn't come to him. He would get pissed off about it. And the guy that everybody said after his freshman season was going to be the number 1 wide receiver in this class after he came out early, falls to the 6th round, goes to the Patriots. He's going to need the Patriot way to sort of stay on to stay on the straight and narrow, right? But am I crazy, Trash Man, to just hold out a little bit of hope for old Kayshon Boutte? Just a little bit of hope that, the only guys in front of him is.
I always hold out hope for the Boutte.
Yeah, well, I know you do.
But he's only 5'11", less than 200 pounds, and his athleticism was abysmal.
It was brutal, right?
At the combine.
Yeah, but it's just one of those genies that's kind of hard to put back in the bottle that you see a guy break out at that age and be that good, right? In the SEC. And when you look at it, who else is on the team? Tyquan Thornton. I know they brought in Juju. Devontae Parker, I guess, is still kicking around there. But, Kendrick Bourne and stuff. It's not like these guys. Who else is there? Is there even like Trey Nixon?
Matthew Slater.
Matthew Slater's on the Matthew Slater's on the roster just because he is a kick-ass special teamer, dude. just the special teamer.
Did you already say Devontae Parker?
Yeah, I said I thought Devontae Parker's still there. Is he still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's still there. Regardless, I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of garbage there at the receiver position.
Yeah, so it's like something where we could, like Trash Man said, man. Hopefully,
Douglas seems like more of a reasonable prospect. With he had a 4.44 40.
Yeah, and Byron's like what, wide receiver like 12 in the class or something like that.
Yeah, he could be sneaky.
Byron loved Demario Douglas, so maybe he's the guy to keep an eye on too. Maybe that's more of your kind of roster watch under the radar kind of guy that gets brought up around here and just nowhere else. So that's a good one. I need to remember. Is he even on the dynasty cheat sheet? Yeah, he is, but I need to move him up. I'm going to make a note there. I want to move Douglas up because he belongs above like Parker Washington. Does he belong above? He belongs above like Andre Yosivas. right?
I mean, I guess Joseph has a path to what being.
He has a path. He has a path to being Charlie Football's backup. Charlie Football got drafted to Cincy too. But
Yeah.
look, that'll be on the next podcast. Okay. All right, let's go to the next team. What team do we even have left in the AFC?
The Jets.
The Jets. Okay, so the Will McDonald draft. So the big thing with them, I mean, to me, this one is kind of anticlimactic.
They drafted another running back.
They drafted Israel Abanikanda.
Yeah.
Which really just, that was another just kind of nut kick moment where you're just like, well, Jesus, this feels like it definitely hurts Abanikanda because now he is Breece Hall's backup for at least the next 3 years, probably 4.
Yeah.
Right. And you now wonder, it's like, why did when they already have Bam Knight, they already have young MC, Michael Carter.
Yeah.
Why do they need him? Maybe Breece Hall, I was under the impression Breece Hall is going to be fine. It's felt like it's felt like with the ACL guys, Breece Hall, Javonte, right? It's felt like those are situations where Breece Hall was kind of going the right way. Javonte was going the other way. It makes me wonder not only about where Abanikanda is going to be with all this stuff, what his long-term dynasty outlook is. And then also God, if I have Breece, why are they bringing this dude in exactly? But I do think that it absolutely just tanked Abanikanda's dynasty value. He was a guy who we had ranked in close to the top 10 as far as our consensus. I don't have the rookie. Oh, here are the rookie rankings. Where do we have him consensus?
So I know I had him. I probably had him the highest.
Dude, we had him ranked. Oh, yes. You had him ranked 5. I had him ranked 7. Byron had him ranked 10. So consensus, we had him even above Tyjae Spears and A-Chain.
Well, if you look at his size, he's really close to, he's almost
5'11", 216, 4'4", 140 time at his pro day. I mean, it's he's an explosive player. You don't think he's as straight line as I think. You think he has more wiggle. But I had no.
I feel like it's kind of the pick where if something happened to Breece Hall, you can just plug Abanikanda in there, and the offense runs close to.
To me, he's a very Isaiah Pacheco type player. He's to me, that's who he reminds me of is Pacheco. You and Byron said he's more of a. Byron says he's more of a Ronald Jones or a Kerryon Johnson or this kind of player. I see a Pacheco because I just see the speed and the straight line slashing ability. So, but in Dynasty, it feels like he's swindled because he's sitting behind who, Trashman?
Breece Hall.
And last time I checked, that isn't a good thing, right?
No.